Welcome back to Legends of Adtech, the podcast that goes beyond the buzzwords to the people shaping the future of digital advertising. It's in partnership with this season's sponsor, Revving. Now, for those who don't know Revving is helping digital businesses unlock faster access to the revenue that they've already earned. It's through flexible funding solutions, and it's designed to keep the all-important capital moving at the same speed as the digital economy. You can learn more at revving.io. I'm your host, I'm Julia Linehan. I'm the founder and CEO of The Digital Voice. And today we're talking about the elephant in the room for a lot of CEOs. It is, of course, LinkedIn. Because like it or not, the platform's becoming one of the most powerful growth engines in B2B. But most CEOs will play it incredibly safe. So the real question is, are business leaders too scared to have an opinion online? What does that mean for the companies they lead? Are they becoming reliant on just ChatGPT for their CEO posts? And to help us unpack it, I'm incredibly delighted to be joined by the expert who is Mike Nicholson, founder of 6Ls and an executive visibility agency that helps CEOs and senior leaders build, influence and drive business growth. Now, Mike's part of my club, that's the 3-decade club, having worked for all those years across marketing, sales, biz dev, major publishers like the Telegraph, big ad tech companies like OpenX, and today he works directly with leaders to help them show up, stand out and grow their businesses. So welcome, Mike. Legends of Adtech. You are one of them.
Oh, thank you, Julia. You're looking very good on 3 decades. I must say, I've got a lot more grey hairs than you have. You'll have to let me know how you
it's
how you
the
do
blonde
that.
hair dye. This may not be natural.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Mike, we always challenge our guests to, in 60 seconds or less, tell us who you are and how you got to where you are today. Go.
Okay, so I'm Mike Nicholson. As you said there, I've got 3 decades now in media and advertising. I started off in regional press, moved to the Evening Standard, which was like a national but regional, if that makes sense. Then went to Northern and Shell, moved into digital with the Telegraph, worked at various different companies that ended in TV and got the nickname Mike TV. So I worked at Web TV, Blink TV, Telegraph TV. Took a couple of years out of it's just sort of adjacent to the industry, working for a B2B research and advisory company, which is where I got the idea to launch 6Ls, and launched 6Ls in 2018. So I think I did that in probably about 30 seconds, hopefully. 30 years in 30 seconds.
Do you know what? All the very best people start their trade in the mid-90s in publishing. And wasn't it a good time? When you might do, I'm going to do a series at one point or a season on confessions of the 90s and noughties, because I think it would be brilliant.
It might be a bit of an eye-opener for some of our younger listeners. Wow.
Wouldn't it just? So let's get into it. And I try and attempt not to swear, so I'll be well behaved today. WTF is executive visibility, and what's it all about? And is it all about LinkedIn? Okay,
so a few things there. No, it's not all about LinkedIn, but that is, as you said in your intro there, it's the most powerful growth engine available to us. Executive visibility is essentially telling the stories that your company need to tell as human beings. B2B should be at least B2P, so business to people, and ideally should be people to people. So if you think of the sales function within any ad tech company, it's people to people, it's very relationships driven. If you think about how much time we spend on digital platforms like LinkedIn versus how much time we spend in front of sales teams, is very much skewed to the digital world now. So I would say we live in these two worlds, the physical world and the digital world. I think marketing has done a very good job at optimizing towards the digital world, but sales not so much. And when I say sales, it doesn't just need to be the sales team. That's anyone from the CEO down, which has a revenue number on their head and is involved in talking to, having client-facing conversations. So people show up very well. They're quite happy to go on stage or go on a podcast or go to a networking event. But when it comes to LinkedIn, for some reason,
they don't want to shout. Yeah.
Are you aware of the Eisenhower matrix? So you've got urgent and important in the top left hand. Yeah. I think it gets filed in important but not urgent. And when you're running an ad tech company, there's loads of things that are both urgent and important every single week. And so it kind of gets missed out. I was speaking to one of my clients, a CEO, just last week, actually, and I got him to record what he said because he said something, we were just having a pint. And he said, "Oh, that's brilliant." Like, he basically explained what we did much better than I could, because obviously I'm in the weeds, so I can't talk about what we do as well as others do. And he basically said that LinkedIn's the first thing that you forget about when you get really busy, and then before you know where you are, it's been 3 months and you haven't posted anything. So yeah, it's about showing up and telling stories as people to people.
And let's not forget that LinkedIn doesn't reward you if you don't post regularly. So that's also causing a little bit of a pickle for a lot of people. I think there's a couple of points there. One is, I think people underestimate how powerful it is in the sales process. And I don't mean in mail, because I think that drives everybody insane. And what people are doing is wrong, is they're sending in mail, but yet their own LinkedIn feed. So if I get an email, often I'll look at somebody's profile and I'm like, hang on a sec, you haven't been posting, you've not been engaging, you've not shown anything that's of interest or interesting, and you're just going straight for the sales route and missing what actually will define it. And we've got Suze Chaplin, who's the founder of ESB Connect and works with us. She categorically has said that the work she does on LinkedIn, the work we do with ESB Connect on LinkedIn, and the PR profile, the amount of press that then gets reshared on LinkedIn, has had a dramatic effect on her sales. So it is working. How do you get that message across and going, it is not just it's not a
closing tool.
Yeah.
I think that's one of our biggest challenges, and it depends on who you're selling to. So if you're selling to a marketer, they kind of get it. If you're selling to a salesperson, maybe not so much. And that's not to denigrate salespeople. It's just because salespeople tend to think that a sales opportunity starts when they have that first conversation. And so they think, oh, well, I'll send a connection request and then I'll ask for a meeting. And then if somebody accepts that, then that's when the sales conversation started. But that's actually not true. So if I give you an example as if you were a client of ours. So if you wanted to, let's say, target CEOs of ad tech companies in the US who might, in the next 18 months, want to launch into the UK, you would need to build awareness, familiarity and trust in the digital voice far ahead of that moment when they think, right, we need a PR agency in the UK. Because if they have never heard of you, they'll probably ask their contacts on the ground. So it's important that those contacts on the ground know who the digital voice are. But it's important that they've already heard of you, because then there's an element of trust there. For speaking to Rory Sutherland, and if you listen to people like Richard Shotton and you know, those behavioural science guys, we tend to like and trust people and things that we're more familiar with. And so the goal really is to build familiarity before there's a brief and a budget for what it is that you sell. So I think Suze is spot on, and she's very good working with you guys at showing up consistently and frequently. Has been on my podcast as well, obviously, and she's a good speaker. She does the networking in the physical world really well, but she shows up on LinkedIn as well. And I think that's so important, because as I say, sales think so we think about the buyer's journey from cold to close as having 6 stages, unsurprisingly, for a company called Six Sales, and that's awareness, familiarity, trust, interest, consideration, purchase decision. Now, awareness is, I've heard of the digital voice, but I don't really know what they do. Familiarity is, I've heard of the digital voice. I know they do events, PR, etc., social content, etc., etc., etc. And then that familiarity builds over time into a trust. So if I wanted to have a conversation with a PR agency, then I would trust that the digital voice is somebody that I should go to. But interest is the interesting one. And that sounds like a bit of a mouthful there. But interest doesn't happen just because I know you and trust you, right? Interest happens when there's a compelling event inside somebody's business. So it might be that I just get some investment and I think, right, I really need to push the button on getting Six Sales out there. I need a PR agency. And I will have a short list in my head straight away. And you would be on it, of course.
Thank you, Mike.
But that's because you show up regularly in the physical world and the digital world, and I've known you over a long period of time. But if you're not on that short list at the point that there's interest, then you won't get the brief. And so it's that work that you do in awareness, familiarity and trust and interest over time that decides how many briefs you get, how many people return your calls. When you send an email, does it get looked at, does it get deleted, or does it get responded to? That's a big difference. People are drowning in email these days, especially with AI and automation, and so there's so much crap in our inboxes that if you're not familiar when you land, the likelihood is you're not going to get a response. And so it's all of that work that's done, because it's kind of felt maybe a little bit woolly, or it's not tangible, and you can't link it directly to how many pounds come in the sort of front end. So I think some people maybe discount it, but it's super important.
I think it's so important. So here's another thought then, because I always think it's CEO needs to lead from the front. B, a CEO needs to set example, and C, a CEO should have a good following and a good voice and a good value, a good authority. So what are the things that CEOs should be doing and what should they not be doing? And I'll caveat that with saying, again, Sue's going to love us for this session. So we were chatting with Susan, really encouraging her to go be brave and do pieces to video.
I've seen that,
walking down the road. And it was right out of her comfort zone, but she's done it and it's worked. So I'm going to put that firmly in the do pot. But give us some more. What should they be doing? What should they not be doing?
So what you don't do is random acts of marketing, and random acts of marketing is, I should post something on LinkedIn, I haven't done it for ages, and just think of something off the top of your head and just go and do it. That's much better than nothing, but there's no strategy or cohesion behind that. There's no consistency of message. So don't be silent, because it's such a wasted channel. If you're the CEO, especially if you're a founder CEO, you are the most interesting person in the building in terms of the external audience. People don't want to hear what your marketing team have got to say about your company. They want to hear what the person who set the company up is saying about it. Why did you set it up? What's the founder journey look like? People are super interested in founder journeys, by the way. I didn't know that until I became one. People were really interested in having a coffee and finding out, how's it going? What you're doing? People, a lot of people, I think, have that sort of latent dream of starting their own thing, but something holds them back, and they want to hear sort of live vicariously through others and think what are you doing, how's it going, and stuff like that. But so if I focus on what to do, if you were our client, the first thing we would do is we would build a communications framework that keeps us consistent, and that sounds complicated, but all that is basically it's who are your audiences specifically. So it might be UK CEOs of ad tech companies, US ad tech companies, and rest of the world ad tech companies. Let's say they're your three audiences. Okay, and what is the core story that you would want them to know about the digital voice? Audience one, audience two, audience three. Might be the same story, might be different stories, depending on how different the audiences are. Okay, so let's say you had 3 stories for audience one, 3 stories for audience two, 3 stories for audience three. You now have 9 topics that you can talk about on rotation, and each of those topics can be delivered in probably 10 different formats and 100 different ways. So you can say your content can be different every single day, every single week, but it's keeping consistent with the messages that you want to talk about. So that's the first thing. Now that's done usually at the CEO, CMO level, and is available for the whole company. So you mentioned about leading from the front as a CEO. So if you share that with your sales and marketing and product teams, that kind of gives them permission to post, and they realize, okay, well, this has been signed off from the top, so it's okay to talk about these things. You'll be surprised how many people don't post because they're just worried that somebody somewhere might frown upon it and think that they shouldn't have done that, and they get in trouble, and so it's easier to do nothing. So leading from the top is super important. When we work with companies that ask us to support their sales team versus support their CEO and their sales team, you get a lot more traction when the CEO is active than you do when it's just the sales team, if that makes sense, because the CEO kind of gives everyone in the company permission. Oh, well, if the CEO is doing it, then I can do it. So once you've got that, you then say, okay, so we would then have a briefing call with you once a month. The first one would be an hour long, and we'd just talk to you about all of those topics, and we'd just get a brain dump out of your head. Just talk to me about topic 1. Tell me everything you can tell me about that. If I was a client, what would you tell me about that? And then each month we'd have top-up calls where I said, right, we're going to write about topics 1, 2, 3, and 4 this month. We need to hear you talk about those topics as if we're clients. And then we'll ask you questions, just a conversation like we're having now. Lots of questions, quick fire questions. What about that? What is that? Why is that important? That sort of stuff. And just get all of your words out of your head. It doesn't have to be, you're not trying to write a LinkedIn post here, you're just talking.
Yeah, I always call it plucking out the nuggets of brilliance from your head and transposing them.
So Karen posted something. Karen's my wife and founder at 6 Hours. She posted something the other day about a brilliant female leader in our industry who we wanted to put forward for an award. And this particular leader didn't think that she had any chance. She was like, I don't think so. Because she'd done so much, but she couldn't kind of bring it to mind. She didn't really think it was going to. And Karen spent half an hour with her having a conversation and just pulled all of these, what did you call them? Nuggets of gold.
Nuggets of brilliance.
Nuggets of brilliance. And there was one after the other, after the other. I'm going to steal that, after the other. And this particular woman won the award, and she now uses the notes that Karen made to try and remind herself that she is actually she is worthy of these sorts of awards, So, but that sort of stuff sort of hide that people don't see themselves in the same way as other people see them sometimes, and so it kind of hides latent in their brain. It has to be the CEO showing up, but the CEO just doesn't have time to sit down for an hour or two every week and think, right, what am I going to write and how am I going to write it? Sometimes they do.
And you help him do that.
Yeah.
I've got a question for you though, because there is an argument. I mean, ghostwriting has its place. Some people can call it, is it laziness? Is it better to do ghostwriting from an expert such as yourselves, or is it okay to go down the AI slop? And so I'm going to think about that, but I'm going to layer on another thing. When I write my posts, and you can always tell it's written by me because I write like a talk, and that's how I've always done it. So it's quite flippant, quite off the cuff, and I do use ... and dash and all that stuff because that's how my mind works. But I kind of like that. I like to know that my personality comes out. You can tell it's Julia when you're looking at my LinkedIn. When you're ghostwriting, you get that expertise, you get those topics you mentioned, and you get what they're wanting to say out on there. But does it lose that personality, or is it better than nothing, or is it the right approach? Does it build confidence that the CEO starts getting it and starts doing it themselves? There's a lot to unpack there, Mike.
I don't think it's lazy. I mean, if you think of a CEO, they might have an executive assistant that sends emails for them, receives emails for them, manages their inbox, and it's just an extension of that, really. In terms of you write how you speak, that's 100% the right way to write as far as I'm concerned. And that's why we have to have the briefing calls. So if we spend half an hour with you talking about the topic, we hear how you talk about it, and if you're flippant, and if you had what stories you tell, and what words you use and don't use, and how you use them, and so we get you. It's all you. We're just helping you to craft it into a way that LinkedIn that is presentable on LinkedIn and is crafted into a story that matches your communications framework, but uses your words, your phrases, your ideas, your stories, your thoughts, all of it. So it's all you. We're just taking the heavy lifting away from you from it. So rather than spending a couple of hours every week and having to stay consistent, we ask you for half an hour once a month, and then we'll do the rest.
So let's talk about this. I've got something topical happened this week when we're recording into this, which is the news on Brewdog, and I happened to be on stage yesterday with the marketing director of Beavertown Brewery, and it was really timely. But all that came into my mind was what the CEO did on LinkedIn. And what a number of CEOs have done when they've got it wrong, those crying when they've made loads of people redundant. And I think CEOs are often scared of the backlash if they get it wrong. So when a post goes badly, how damaging can it be? And how do you just mitigate that? To me, it's common sense.
If we just focus on LinkedIn for a moment, everybody's profile is linked to their professional career. It's not like Twitter or X, where you can show up completely anonymously, or Reddit, where the same is true. It's so people tend to behave quite well. The backlash, you have to do something quite spectacular to get huge backlash, I think. So it's being mindful and thinking about that communications framework before you start, and making sure that you're all kind of happy with the direction that you're going in. But if you're professional, show up as yourself and talk about what you believe in, then it doesn't really go wrong, to be honest. People, I always liken posting LinkedIn a bit like the Works karaoke do, and I know you don't drink anymore, but if you take yourself back to those days in the 90s,
I'm still really good at karaoke sober. I give it welly.
Oh, I say I would never do it sober, never. and so you walk in and you think, I'm not doing that, no way. But then you have a couple of beers, and you think, oh, maybe let's have a look, and you think, okay, I'll do Wonderwall, something like that, and then you do it. And you're really nervous about it. You get up and you do it. And you think, "Oh, that was all right. I got a clap. No one died." And then you want to do it again and again and again. And so it's getting started. And people are pretty supportive. And it's it's a very people-led industry that we're in. And people tend to rather sort of raise you up, if you're sort of making an effort to show up authentically on LinkedIn. Look at Carly from Audience Q. She used to not show up so much, and she started to now, and she came on our podcast, and people are giving her so much love on LinkedIn. Wow, I love this for you, Carly, and stuff like that.
Difference.
And it's and that's what, and that gives you the confidence to be able to carry on sort of showing up and being yourself.
Definitely.
I think the crying CEO. I don't know the crying CEO. I think the reason that went wrong is because he was making it all about himself, as if, poor me, poor me that all of those people have lost their jobs, and so that was a bit tone deaf,
Yeah, I think that's the thing. So this is the interesting thing. Oh, and I thought something when you said about drinking and karaoke and needing a few beers before doing it. Advice for everybody listening: do not post on LinkedIn when you've had 8 pints / what glasses of wine.
That's a great advice.
Here's another thought though, because you were talking about show up as yourself, but LinkedIn is a B2B. It's a business tool. How much should you go down the personal route? I know we're getting at some people have that love hate, it's getting like Facebook, etc. But also, how much should, say if you're working for a company and they put you under pressure or encourage you or want you to be an ambassador squad for them and promote it, how much do you own your own LinkedIn when you're an employee at a company? How much should you be a cheerleader for them? How personal should you get? And when do you overstep? And are you aware that your digital footprint remains there and you might not want that in later life? What's your thoughts on that? Where's the fine line?
So some larger companies will have a social media policy, which will basically say either don't post about work. So that they tend to be the more regulated industries like pharmaceuticals or healthcare, stuff like that, finance. A lot of companies don't have a social media policy, and they're usually pretty happy for you to post about them, but they don't necessarily support it, which is a crying shame. It's such a waste.
Yeah.
So how personal should you get? So I think that's a personal choice as well. So some people are, my private life and my business life are completely separate, and I keep them completely separate.
Yeah.
Some people are the same person in both, right? So I don't switch off at a certain time and become a different person. I'm kind of the same. So I've talked about coaching at Sutton United, which is a volunteer thing that I do on the weekends on LinkedIn, because I call that my weekend work, and I take it quite seriously, and I've done my coaching badges, and it's something that I'm really passionate about. I had a client once show a picture of his daughter playing with Lego while he was parenting at home with a sick child, and make that about work, and that went down really, really well. People loved that. But I think again it just comes back to that word which is overused and perhaps a little bit wanky, but like being authentic. If it's authentically you, then I think that's okay.
I think you're right. I mean, my record-breaking post that I've ever done was and still is probably my soberversary, or my maybe 1 year or whatever, 5 years, 7 years, I can't remember which one it was. But to me, it was because everybody's known me in the industry for 30 years. I went very loud and proud, and I'm not a 100% full non-drinker, but I'm 100% a sober lush. So if I can I'll have a sip, but I just love being sober. That's a dream. But because it was so different to everybody who knows me, it was such a proud moment. And the reason I did it was I wanted to show up, show how amazing it is, given that I've lived a life that was different. And I wanted to lead by example, and it had that impact. And quite a lot of people have said it made them try it out, give it a go. And I felt like, of all the things I've done. So I felt the thing is, do what feels right for you. Do what's also, you put a mirror to yourself. You want to stand up there. It's a bit like we do sessions for hype yourself. How do you hype yourself? But if you're not shining on stage, then people aren't able to see what's possible. And we had Layla Saith Hassan on here, who's the Chief Data Officer at Digitas. And she said what was really important from a DEI perspective was she wanted to get to that chief C-suite level to show other people what's possible. So maybe think about your LinkedIn post as to how you shine a light on it and may encourage others. Give to gain.
Yeah, 100%. You have to be able to see it before you can be it, right? And
yeah.
So you showing up as sober, as somebody that grew up in media in the 90s, that was a very rare thing. It was a very heavy drinking culture.
Yeah.
And now there's quite a few people in our industry, in the UK certainly, that don't drink, right? And so that's, the more you talk about that, the more you show others that you don't have to have a drink. I find that I get quite quiet. If I'm out in an event and I haven't had a drink, I get quite quiet. And so I find small talk quite difficult, and the drinking helps me to do that. But I have seen your post, and I think Tom Jennings another one.
Yeah, we set up Spill, Sober Party industry, lads and ladies, off the back of it. And it's about mindful, if you're just mindful. And I'll tell you what, man, it's a really interesting point. I had to relearn, because obviously we drank since we were 14, and loved it. But you did have to relearn. But what I learned was, interesting people who you're talking to, it doesn't matter whether you've had a drink, no drink, they'll still be interesting. A boring night will only be made less boring by alcohol. So you actually choose how you socialise and who you socialise to. But we're going off on a tangent here.
A little, but that's okay. It's all about networking.
I know, but I'll tell you what, I've got one question, then I'm going to ask you to do the new round of mic drops, and then I'm going to put you in the quick fire round, okay? So this is just something that I am curious about the answer to. Are we heading towards LinkedIn fatigue and maybe LinkedIn blindness?
No is the short answer, but the more sort of nuanced answer is I think that there's more and more, you use the word AI slop.
Yeah.
I'm kind of torn on it. Is it better than nothing? It probably is, because you're still visible. So even if people think, oh, that's written by AI, I'm not going to read it, at least your name flashes into their memory for a few seconds as you sort of scroll on by. And if you're in any sort of commercial role, visibility is kind of a bit of a superpower. It's like you don't want to be invisible. That's really bad, right? So visibility is important. So it's probably better than nothing, but it's not ideal. But I think that gives an opportunity. So I'm not necessarily a massive fan of the talking to the camera thing that Suze did. That's in terms of the style, I wouldn't do that, is what I mean. Like, it's not a thing that I would do, but I really clap and applaud her for doing it and putting herself out there. And that makes her visible. And because it's video, I know AI can make videos now, but it's the most trusted medium, I think. With words now, there are people looking at it thinking, is there an M dash in there? Hang on a minute, is there a certain structure to this post that probably means that ChatGPT did it? Whereas with video, I think we still more or less trust, especially if it's an interview like this, you kind of more or less trust that Julia and Mike showed up and had a conversation.
We are real. We're real humans.
We are real. Look.
Yay.
Ow. Authentic content from people will stand out even more, because as you're scrolling, you think slop. Okay, right. What's this?
Interesting. Yeah. So keep it real. Keep it human. So perfect, Mike. We're going to come to this section, mic drop moments, and it's Mike's mic drop moments for this section. Can you give 3 hottest pieces of short form advice for LinkedIn success? With CEO or not, LinkedIn success, go.
Okay, show up as you would do in the real world. Show up every week, and show up with video if you can.
Perfect. Love it. You've heard it here.
Short form video interview style.
Love those. Mic drop moments from Mike. We should have everyone called Mike. You can only come on if called Mike, so I can do the Mike's mic drop moments.
Please don't drop me, though. I'm quite fragile.
Final round, the fired up quick fire. You've got to say the first thing that comes into your head. Are you ready, Mike?
Are you insured?
Name 3 people who are absolutely nailing LinkedIn right now.
Rory Sutherland.
And you'd say?
Karen Stacey and Mike Follett.
Perfect. Thank you. All big names. I follow them all. What are 2 common LinkedIn pitfalls to avoid at all costs?
Invisibility, as in not showing up. You have a huge audience, which can help you to be more visible, to build that awareness, familiarity and trust. If you're invisible, if you don't show up, you're invisible, and that's a huge wasted opportunity. Don't try to be somebody else. Like, if you think, oh, Rory Sutherland seems successful, I'm going to try and be like him, that won't feel right, because it's not like LinkedIn is his own world and doesn't have sort of ramifications. So we live in the physical and the digital world, right? And so as you network in the real world and you meet people, they're going to think, oh, you're very different than I would have thought you would be. Like that on, and I've met a few people like that, like through the podcast, where I followed them on LinkedIn, and then I've met them in the real world, and I thought, oh, okay, like you're different to what I would expect you to be. So that's why it's really important to show up on LinkedIn just as you would do in the real world.
Absolutely. I love it. Well, that's our whole ethos at the Digital Voice, is amplification in whatever guise it may be. Next one, be honest. Is LinkedIn success just a vanity metric, or is it actually genuine proof of performance?
It's definitely not vanity. So we've had clients that have done 6-figure deals based off the work that they've done on LinkedIn. Usually it's super hard to measure, because if somebody sends you an email and says, oh, I'd like to talk to you, and then sales go, oh, brilliant, we've got a lead, and then they go and close a deal, that person doesn't necessarily say it's because they've been following you on LinkedIn, but sometimes they do. And so the way a lot of our new business comes is a way that we've seen new business come for our clients, which is you get in one day, you get a message, you go, oh, You go, hey Mike, I've been following your content for months now. I like your stuff. I think you can help us. Can we have a conversation? Now, when that happens, obviously you can attribute your content to that. Most often that doesn't happen. People get in touch via a different route, whether it's hello at Six Sales or they meet you over a glass of wine at a networking dinner or whatever and start chatting to you. But it absolutely helps drive business, so it's not a vanity metric. And again, if you go back to those 6 stages of the buyer's journey: awareness, familiarity, and trust, you can scale that much more easily if you're in the digital world as well as the physical world. If you're just going door to door and having like 5 meetings a week or something like that, it's going to take you a long time to get round the thousands of people that you want to influence.
Perfect. Thank you. Last 2. In one sentence, what's the biggest myth about LinkedIn for business growth?
Let's say people think it doesn't work because they don't see immediate results. How's that?
Perfect. I like that. I'm going to add in one more question. How bad or how good is it to compare yourself to your competitors? Is it because sometimes you can look at your own thumbs up and likes on something, look at your competitor CEO with another agency or another company and go, God damn it, they beat me on that, or get obsessed with the analytics on competition. Healthy or unhealthy?
Irrelevant. I think it's completely irrelevant. There are so many things. In fact, if I can plug another podcast, the Uncensored CMO, John Evans just recently interviewed the
Loved him. I was on
CMO
stage with him
LinkedIn.
this week on Confessions
He's
at
awesome,
PMW
right?
Unlocked. He was brilliant. I won't tell you what his confessions were.
So the CMO of LinkedIn basically said it herself. She said, there's so many things going on behind the scenes that are invisible and not trackable on any given moment. You could post something now and it could die as far as engagement's concerned, and then you could post it at 3 o'clock and it'll blow up. It just, there's so many things going on. But what people do is they look and think, oh, that post got more likes than that post, so then maybe I'll do more content like that. But that might not be because of the content. There are certain things that we think hold true because over sort of 7 years or whatever we've been doing this for now, and thousands of posts across hundreds of people, things like if you show up as people. One of my most successful posts from an organic point of view recently is we went to the after drinks at the Trinity lunch and met up with loads of lovely industry people and had a nice photo, and we talked about how, you know, networking will never be replaced by AI, and loads of people loved that because it's like, oh look, there's there's Mike, oh look, there's Ben, oh look, there's
why do you think I do a selfie roll call on every one of my
Yeah.
It's like, people love seeing sales. Well, that leads me to the final one, which is if you can give one piece of advice to every CEO listening, what would it be?
Get active and get your people active. If you work with someone like us, obviously there's a cost attached, but it's basically free promotions. It's the ability to get in front of thousands of your ideal clients every week, and it's free. Like, why wouldn't you do it? If I were to tell you that there's a pub next to WPP Media, and if you went and just sat there and worked there for the day, you'd reach 1,000 people that work there that would come in, see you, nod, shake hands or whatever. You'd be there in a flash, wouldn't you? So yes, well, why aren't you not doing it on LinkedIn? It's exactly the same.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Mike. The message is clear. Lean in and stand out and do something to make it really effective for you. Thank you so much, Mike, for joining us today. You've been a pleasure.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me. Cheers, Julia.
Wonderful. Thank you. And before we wrap up, I want to say a quick thank you to our Season 3 partner, Revving. Revving believes that digital businesses should have greater control over how and when capital is deployed. Through their transactional-based funding model and a suite of fully automated solutions, Revving is providing flexible access to revenue. And it's all about aligning funding with performance and getting paid for the work you have done. And by modernizing how capital moves through the digital economy, Revving ensures that capital keeps pace with performance. And it's giving finance teams, honestly, much greater control over timing, deployment and growth. So you can find out more at revving.io, and we thank Revving for being a partner of us on this season of Legends of Adtech. If you enjoyed today's conversation, don't forget to rate, review, share this episode, and of course be sure to follow us so you never miss a single legend. Till next time, I'm Julia Linehan. Keep it juicy.